It's no secret by now that I've got a few cars. And we're getting to that time of year where the world seems to come to a stop, deliveries seem to stop happening and every company's closed. So now seems to be like a great opportunity to give you an update with what's going on with the cars that you might have not seen for a while, what I've got planned for the ones that you have, and also the sad truth of why I won't be able to keep any of these cars, but also an update on the cars and the channel. And unfortunately, especially with my Aston Martin, it's not all good news. But we'll come back to that a little bit later in the video. Let's start with the car that you're probably most familiar with at this moment in time, my Audi TT. This is the car which I bought from auction, which had been stolen, crashed, and then set on fire. It had no keys and didn't even start. And already we've managed to transform it pretty quickly from a burnt mess into something which is pretty respectable. And very quickly we've made some great progress, but got some more to come too. So the TT is the latest and greatest addition to the channel. We like to have a nice mix and a good variation of cars, and making sure that we can appeal to all audiences, but also tick all of the boxes for me and enable me to try every car that I dreamed of owning when I was a kid. One comment that I got in the last video, which is, how can you go from owning an Aston Martin into a TT, which there's millions of on the road? Well, I'm not just about super expensive cars. I love most cars on the road, and if that means that having a 2-litre turbo Audi TT is part of my collection, I'm absolutely fine with that. Because variety is, well, part of the spice of life, and that's what keeps things interesting. And that brings us on nicely to my BMW 135i. This has been one of the slower projects on the channel. I didn't realise how much hard work would actually be in this car, considering that we had to completely revamp the bodywork and go over the engine from top to bottom and upgrade it along the way. It's not been a quick job, but I definitely didn't make things easy for myself. I don't like doing things by half measures, and I wanted to transform this car from a standard BMW E82 into a BMW 1M wide body replica. This is a car that I didn't buy crash damaged or from auction. I bought it in a private sale, but it was slightly run down and, well, not the best example on the road. Now, this has been one of my favourite builds so far. The E82 1 Series is like a timeless shape and it's classic BMW, and I think the 135i is a super underrated car. But we are at a bit of a stalemate with this car. You may have seen one of the previous videos we fitted upgraded turbos because the last ones were failing, and after that the car has to be tuned. It is drivable at the moment, but it's not at its full potential. It was drivable until the point where we came to tune it, and then we couldn't get the ECU to read. This is something that you're going to see in a future video, so I don't want to spoil it too much, but the ECU is not reading on the car, it's not reading on the bench, and the car has been tuned previously because we bought the car with decats on and there was no engine management light on, so it must have had a tune in the past, and that tune has locked the ECU, meaning that we can't get on there to be able to alter the files or put a completely new map on it or anything like that. So I'm not sure if it's got like an MHD tune or something else, and yeah, I'm kind of a bit stuck really, and I need to get that sorted in order to move forward with this project and with the channel in turn. And that is such a shame because I really love driving and owning this car, and I haven't driven it for so long now. Now, every problem's fixable, and I'm sure this one is too, so if this is something that you feel like you can help me with, please let me know on my Instagram, which is just here. Next up is the car that took me the longest to do, and it's not the Aston Martin. Now, this is one that you real channel OGs will remember. If you do remember it, please let me know in the comments section. So what we have here is possibly the most monumental waste of money that I've ever done. This is a Seat Rosa. This originally comes fitted with a 1-litre non-turbocharged engine and about 60 horsepower. But that is not the case with this one. So over the period of about 2 years before I started building cars on YouTube, me and my friend James put this car together and it cost me an absolute fortune. So this is a 1.8 turbocharged engine and it came out of a Seat Leon Cupra, originally with 180 horsepower. Again, that was not quite enough. So we then went about strengthening the internals on the engine, forging the parts which needed to be forged, and then fitting a bigger turbo. In fact, a Garrett GT2871R, I believe that's correct. It's been a while since I've looked at this car. So this was then tuned by Mallory Performance, and then it made about 360 horsepower, I believe. But don't quote me on that, I might be wrong. And that sort of power in a car of this sort of size and weight definitely makes it a bit of a handful. And to add to the lightweight side of things, we completely stripped out the interior, leaving just the bare essentials and gauges, and also fitted a custom gear stick too, which is a Coolerworks one with then my custom knob, which says slicks on it. That's a nice touch. And for some reason, this car has just ended up being, well, a garage shelf more than anything. I was building it in a time when it was something that I wanted, and since then my life's changed in that kind of 3-year period to a time when I've got no interest really in driving a car like this that much, so it only comes out on very, very rare occasions. And this car has probably been sat for well over 6 months now, but I think we should probably see if it starts. So with this car, you can't just turn the key and it starts. It's completely flat at the moment because we've not turned the kill switch. So hopefully that brings us a little bit of power on the dash when we turn that on, which it has. So now we can flick 2 of these switches. One of them's the fan, one's the ignition, and one's the fuel pump. So you'll be able to hear when they turn on. So there's the ignition, and that'd be the fuel pumps. As you can see, the fuel cell and everything is behind us and all the fuel pumps, which makes it quite loud inside. Let's see if it'll start. There we go. Now obviously we've done a lot more to this car than just the engine. We've upgraded all of the wheels and tyres. We've gone for these OZ, I think they're Super Legeras, and then they've got NSR2 Nankang tyres, which are like a road legal semi-slick. We've done a disc brake conversion on the back, so it's actually got discs rather than drums. The suspension, we've got custom gas golds, which have got spring rate specific for this car. So what that means is at the front, where the engine is much heavier than what the old one was, it's got tougher springs in order to deal with that. And obviously in the back we've got a completely custom fuel cell and swell pot, and also relocated this lightweight battery into the back as well. Then my dearly beloved van. This one has been my long-term workhorse. I've had this van for like 7 or 8 years now, and it's served me really, really well. There isn't really a huge update to give you on the van. The van was always a long-term project, doing bits and bobs as and where I can. I think the last time you guys seen it, I've just trimmed out all of the back, which has held up really well, apart from the roof lining, which I just don't think these sort of invisible trim clips could quite take the weight of this roof lining up there. So I'm going to have to find another way of reattaching that, but apart from that, the van is fine. So finally, but by no means least, is my Aston Martin V8 Vantage that we fitted with a V12 body kit, which I actually saved from the scrap heap by buying it from a salvage auction, repairing the car, and then fitting this awesome body kit, and then finishing it off with this Miami blue wrap. Apologies about the echo in here, by the way. We're forced inside by typical British winter weather, but you'll also notice these kind of slightly ugly stickers on the side. These stickers are from a day a few weeks ago where I went with Matt with his Lamborghini Murcielago to the High Cross shopping centre in Leicester and displayed the cars and met some of you guys, which was a wicked day out. But it's time to go. Yeah, that looks much better. This car is one of those that I'd never thought I'd even own, let alone be customising it exactly like I have. And every time I drive it, it doesn't feel real. It's one of those experiences for me where I can't put it into words how special this car is to me. It's probably my proudest achievement to date. I love absolutely everything about it. I love the colour, I love all the carbon fibre, the V12 kit, I love all the accents, I love the colour of the wheels, I love the colour of the calipers against the contrast of the wrap, I love the black accents on there. Some of you guys didn't like this, but I really like the black section on the back. It makes it just, everything about this car to me is perfect. So now for the bad news about my Aston Martin Vantage. So the Aston Martin has got precisely 29,300 miles on the clock, and it has just gone through its first clutch. Well, I say gone through, it started slipping in the very cold -5 weather. It actually drives absolutely fine now. So if I was to move it on, I probably could do and have no issues doing so, apart from my actual conscience. And that's what makes me the most sad. This car has to go. The BMW has to go. The Audi has to go at some point, and also the Seat Rosa has to go. And as much as I'd love to keep all of these cars because they're special to me in their own individual ways, I've got to push forward. I can't keep making videos on the same cars continuously and expecting the results to change. I need to keep things interesting for you guys to watch as well as for me too. And if I did have the money, trust me, this car would definitely be staying along with others too, but I'm not made of money, it's not an endless pot of cash, and unfortunately I'm going to have to say bye to most of these cars. Now, with all these cars being for sale, there's one thing which I'm going to need in return, and that's cash, moolah, wonga, dingo dollars, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to need some money for these cars. So it's time to talk cash and how much I want for these cars. Now, I'm sure some of you out there will be thinking I'm absolutely mental asking these sorts of prices for these sorts of cars, but I think what the prices I want are justified, and I'll justify those to you in this video, and if you disagree, then just don't buy the car. So let's start off with the BMW E82 135i. I know I've still got one more video to do on this to finish the car off and get it ready for sale, so I think for that I'm going to be asking £16,000, so that's much less than what you'd pay if you were to build it yourself, and also it's saving you a lot of effort too. And I've gone through all of the major fixes on the car, had the car painted, obviously fitted all the wide body kit, gone through all the maintenance stuff, and upgraded the interior with things like carbon fibre steering wheel, those bucket seats, and also the Apple CarPlay radio. And the price for that is only justified by the amount that I've spent on doing it, so that doesn't include the cost of labour or anything else. I believe that's just the cost of the parts. So in that way, it's a bit of a bargain, I think anyway. Now, I have seen replicas like these advertised for up to £29,000 before, so they are quite a hard thing to price, and obviously they're a fraction of the cost of the genuine 1M, but you know, they are still relatively expensive compared to a standard 135i. But that's just because it's a lot of work turning them into that wide body car. Now, that price is not set in stone. I believe it's going to fall somewhere between £16,000 and £17,000, depending on how much money I've actually got in the car. I need to add up all the figures, but that's just a good estimate. Then next, the TT. So this one I know is quite far off done at the moment, but I know exactly what I'm going to be doing to the car. And again, I can give you guys a real good estimate on what I think that car is going to be going for. So I think that's going to be going for about £8,000, and it's going to have a few extra little bits on there to make it a little bit sweeter than a standard TTS. And the fact that it is a category N write-off, I know devalues the car slightly, but the fact that we've got evidence of what the damage was and how it's been repaired, I think does negate that slightly. Now, I'm not sure with that car whether to try and sell it or to try and raffle it. It's quite a tough call, really. I would love for one of you guys to be able to win it for next to nothing and be able to drive away in a car that you've watched being built on this channel, but I also need to make sure that I'm going to get my money back. I don't mind taking a bit of a risk, but I also need to make sure that it's not a stupid decision. So I'll see how the channel is when it comes round to doing that, and how much interest there would be in buying a raffle ticket on that car. Next, the Seat Rosa. This is probably the one which has cost me the most money but is worth the least. I realise when you're modifying a car that it's not necessarily going to be worth all of the money that you've put into it. I understand that, I get it. But this is one of those cars that if you wanted to build that, it would cost you a fortune. If you sent it to a garage, the amount of money you'd spend would not make it viable. So I'm stuck between two options here, really. I can either break the car for parts and get more, or I can sell it as one and, you know, take a little bit less for it, but be happy that I can see all of my hard work still in one piece and still being enjoyed for years to come. And that's a tricky decision, but I think due to time and space constraints, I'd be against breaking the car, and also I would be a little bit heartbroken seeing all of my hard work gone to waste. So I'd like to sell the car as a complete car, as it is now, running and driving, and I have actually got an extra bucket seat that matches the other one to go in it as well. So for this car, I think I'm going to be asking for £8,000, which I know is a lot for a Seat Rosa. I'm well aware of that, but I have got receipts and records for this car up to about 20 grand, I think it is off the top of my head, and it's a massive waste of money on my part, but I do want to see it carry on being used and enjoyed as it is, and it would make me a little bit sad to break the car for parts. Again, it's a fraction of the cost if you were to build that sort of standard car yourself, or if you were to send it somewhere else to be built as well. So if you're after a very specific 1.8 turbo converted Lupo or Seat Rosa, that would be a good purchase. Then finally, the Aston Martin, my pride and joy, my little baby, which I am sad to say I've got to get rid of, but it does have to go. So this one, I'm going to price it about the same as what a non-category car would be. Let me explain. I know that sounds a bit daft. This car is a category S write-off, and the reason why it was given a category S, which stands for structural, is because of the headlight bar which runs across the front of the car and supports the headlights and does not much else really. This was a £200 part which was bent, and then I replaced it like for like with a brand new genuine part, which in my mind you know, it seems like a bit of a daft way to write a car off as a category S for something so small. But once that was fixed, I could then show that the car had zero structural damage and then rebuild it all with panels which had not been damaged. So there's no filler on the car and there's no dodgy repairs. Again, I've got evidence in my videos to show this. On top of that, we've fitted it with a genuine Aston Martin V12 Vantage body kit. So that's the bonnet, the bumpers. I even fitted the wings with the carbon fibre strikes in there, and also the rear bumper too. So there's quite a lot of parts there, there's a lot of carbon fibre, and it costs a lot for you to do that to another car. So pricing it at about £28,000, I think, in my mind, is fair. So I'm going to leave all of the ways that you can contact me in the description. I'll leave my Instagram there and my email. If you are interested in the car, or if you know someone that might be, please feel free to share this video with them. And I'd love to see these cars go to good homes, and maybe even people that watch the channel as well. Some of you might think that I'm mad with my pricing on these cars, and some of you might think that I'm giving them away, but that's the thing with money, and that's the reason why I don't really talk about it on the channel too much, is because it's subjective. What might be a lot to someone isn't a lot to the next person, and some people value things differently. So everything is subjective to that individual. But it would be lovely off the back of this video to be able to see one of my subscribers going away with one of my cars, and then also helping me be able to move forward with the channel. But for now, if you're not subscribed, make sure you're whacking that subscribe button down below, smash a like on this video, and I'll catch you next time.